They was mentioned here that immigration may bring innovation with it. And that's wonderful. And this is true, depending what country they come from. And in our experience in Israel, there was an immigration of 1 million Jews from Russia, and non-Jews that came to Israel from Russia. And this was a tremendous brain drain on Russia, but wonderful benefit for Israel. And these people came with wonderful ideas. And this is why the government built 26 incubators to host these people with the great ideas. It's nothing. Build 10 buildings, 10 laboratories in each, and you bring in so much innovation. Let me give you one example, which is fantastic. You know about stents that some people have in the heart or in the legs? These are sieves that are made of metal. And one Russian guy said, these are made by laser cutting tubes. So you take a tube and you cut it by laser to make a mesh, right? And one Russian guy came and said, it's much easier to use the laser on a flat surface than on a round surface. By far easier and by far faster. And then you take this flat mesh and make it into a tube and weld it very finely. He gave it to an entrepreneur in Israel, and that company makes billions of dollars. And this came from one guy with a good idea from Russia. It is so simple and yet so genius, okay?
Our leaders have to walk the talk, our business leaders, our intellectuals, but also our political leaders. Otherwise, we will not create an atmosphere of being more open to risk, of being more open to innovation, of being more open to technology.
What's happening right now, which is more massively interesting for the networks and for infrastructure, is going to be automation. First of all, of the mobile, like cars, trucks, etc., and of course the automation in fabrication, which goes far beyond what we have seen in the history of the last 100 years. That goes from let's say agriculture to, of course, the making of every single thing that we can sell and buy. So actually the whole economy is going to change through that form of innovation and that form of automation.
So that is the discussion that people are having. How do you create the scalability? Infrastructure is an ongoing discussion. It's not so much if one should build infrastructure or not. It is what kind of infrastructure should one build. Do you build infrastructure that has already existed before and you strengthen it? Do you build new infrastructure? Or do you try to come up with the infrastructure of the future? Right? Do you invest into infrastructure? The discussion is about broadband. Broadband is a topic from 1980, right? 35 years later, we are still talking about giving people internet connections, right? The question in my mind is, if you talk about infrastructure, we could be selling people jackets with sensors inside where you can measure all of your body movements and they immediately appear on the internet. That would be a new infrastructure if you had a whole population that is fully wired up with sensors, and you could check their medical conditions, you could provide medical treatment with that, you could improve their golf skills, you could do a wide range of activities with a new set of infrastructure that we couldn't even consider now.
I think it's very important what is happening today in Austria in catching up with countries which have been much ahead in digital infrastructure in comparison to Austria. But for the whole industry and for Austria, it's only going to be the beginning of what is going to be ahead, because what we're doing now is enabling services as we know them today, enabling our smartphones, enabling our fixed connections at home. But the digital future and the infrastructure for the digital future will have completely different requirements on top of those, where we will be needing to be connected everywhere, not only if you move close to the windows or if we are downtown, every time with unlimited bandwidth in an amount that we don't feel we are actually connected to a network. And with a latency, this is how the engineers calls it, so meaning a time lag between a request to the network and the answer of the network, which is really absolutely zero if you think about new applications like doing a medical operation remotely. You don't want to wait even a second on your screen until you see the reaction of what you're just doing, let's say literally at an open heart. So this is on the infrastructure part, but as I said in the very beginning, I think that's just an enabler.
I would like to make sure that this audience is also aware of the fact that we can also create technologies that make peace instead of wars. One of the Alpine wisdoms is that one example is worth 1 million words. So let me give you an example of a peacemaking technology. I'm not saying that the technology that I will mention now is and will be extremely successful. I'm only saying that it makes sense to think along those lines. I'm now helping a company rooted at Harvard. They use the high-tech, internet-based mind genomics technology to maintain peace in a multi-ethnic environment in Middle East, which is peaceful, relatively peaceful for now, but the peace is fragile. What they do is, using their mind genomics technology, they find two very young persons of similar kind of interests and capabilities and mentality, if you wish. They connect them through the internet. The kids don't have to see each other. They get connected through the internet. The company helps them induce a business opportunity. The company gives them seed money to start. And then the Boston companies leave them to fight with the market realities. The assumption is that if they happen to be successful, they soon become the most successful and the best peacekeeping forces in the Middle East, simply because the war is not convenient for the success of business.